What is up, YouTube? I have yet another deck tech for you today. This is a deck I call Oops All Creatures. It is a deck that, yes, it has all creatures except for one card. This deck runs around $75 as is of recording, so it's a pretty fun semi-budget deck that you guys can play in a casual setting. Let's go ahead and go through the deck. This deck has a lot of mana ramp, and so we have a playset of Birds of Paradise, probably one of the best one-drop mana ramp spells ever. We also have a playset of zhur-taa Druid, which is another mana ramp which deals 1 damage every time it's tapped for mana. This is actually pretty good, especially if you have multiples out, even just 1 or 2, which helps you finish off games where you can't finish off your opponents with attacking. But being able to deal a couple points of extra damage here and there, especially as you're ramping for your game finishers, it's a really good card, and I really like it in this deck. We have a 3 of Solemns, which is probably one of the most profitable cards in Magic, in my opinion. I must admit that when I first saw this card, when I was pretty new to Magic, it wasn't a great card. I didn't think it was a great card at all. But the more and more you play with Solemns, you'll notice that it is a very good card advantage card that allows you to ramp, but also gives you a card draw whenever it dies. And then you can also trade early on in the game for any creatures that they might have. So it's a 3-in-1 most of the time for most games. So Solemn Simulacrums are very good cards that I highly recommend that you guys always put in certain decks. We also have 3 Somberwald Sages. Somberwald Sages are very weak. They're very easy to destroy. However, there are certain games where your opponents simply don't have the response, or they don't have the card killers to defeat your sages. So being able to ramp up to 6 mana basically on turn 3 can really turn the table for you. And these are fun cards. They're really cheap to play, and you can get them out on turn 2. We also have a playset of Yavimaya Elders. Yavimaya Elders are also very good card advantage creatures, where whenever they die, you search up for 2 basic lands, put them in your hand, so you're always healthy on mana. But then you can also sacrifice it itself to be able to draw a card afterwards. And if that is not enough, it also allows you to block any 2 toughness creatures and kill them off. So this is yet another creature that gives you 3 for 1 most of the time. Very great card. We have 2 Inferno Titans, which help you out with any weenie decks or any token decks. Inferno Titans are always great. And then, here's the big one. We have 3 Rurikthars, the Unbowed. Rurikthar is a legendary creature for 6/6. It has Vigilance and Reach. It attacks every turn when it is able to. But then it has this ability where whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, Rurikthar deals 6 damage to that player. I really wanted to make a deck off of this ability, so that's why I put in 3 of these guys. It's a fun ability. Basically, any type of removal just to get rid of Rurikthar or any of your other creatures, your opponents are taking 6 damage. If they try to counter any future spells that you might have, taking 6 damage. 6 damage is a decent amount of life, and your opponents will really hate it. And to be able to bring Rurikthar out at least 3 times in a game will really help you win the game most of the time. We also have 1 Primordial Hydras. Primordial Hydras are just fun cards where you just cast them. You can cast them early on in the game and just leave it alone, or you can cast them late in the game for a big cost and be able to just trample over your opponents. It's one of those cards that allows you to just play it and then forget about it, and it'll take care of itself and basically win the game for you if your opponents don't have any responses to it. Fun card. For some utility, we have 2 Kazul, Tyrant of the Cliffs. This is another fun card that I always wanted to make a deck off of. Basically, the way that I treat Kazul in this deck, I treat it as a propaganda or a ghostly prison. If your opponent attacks, if they don't pay 3, you get a 3/3 red ogre creature token that you can use to block that creature. And the best part is these ogre tokens don't disappear at the end of the turn. So unless your opponent has some type of weird thing for ogres, they basically won't be able to attack for quite some time until they have enough mana to do so. So we have 2 of these. It's a fun card, and he's 5/4 himself, so he's pretty big. We have just 1 Eternal Witness. I was thinking back and forth on adding more Eternal Witnesses because they're just good cards, but I noticed that this deck only needs 1 because most of the time, most of your other creatures will be doing a lot of the work for you, and so I noticed that Eternal Witness, just having 1 of them is good enough, and it brings back any cards that you really need late in the game. Also, we have 2 Genesis Hydras. This is a fun card as well. It's a 2-for-1 most of the time, which allows you to look at the top X cards of your library, and any creature that you see, you basically put in the battlefield as well. And so it's a fun card. It's a big beater if you late in the game, and it helps you find any other creatures that you really need to help you out, depending on what's on the battlefield as well. For more utility cards, we have 2 Acidic Slimes. Acidic Slimes are basically your Swiss Army cards. Allows you to, whenever it comes in, allows you to destroy an artifact, enchantment, or a land. If you happen to get these out early on in the game, destroy your opponent's lands to mess up their mana. If you have, Obrings or Journey to Nowheres, which my opponents usually have, allows you to bring back your creatures out as well. And also it's a 2/2 with Death Touch, so it can kill off any creatures just by blocking. And so Acidic Slime for 5 mana, it's 5 mana for a reason. It's such a good card. I really like putting them in all green decks. Then we also have 1 Reclamation Sage. Reclamation Sage is just great. It's just a 3 mana, 2/1, naturalize on a stick. It's fun, it's necessary, especially if you have enchantment or artifact heavy meta, and I highly recommend that you put these in as well. For the final card in this deck, we have this one big ending card called Primal Surge. It is the only non-creature spell in this deck. It is 10 mana, so obviously you will not be playing this every single game. But the best part about this card, especially for this deck, is that you will be able to cast and put down everything in your deck, because everything else is a permanent. Lands, creatures, and that's it. And so if you happen to get this and you have the mana to pay for it, which most of the time you will, you basically playing your entire deck, and you'll be able to attack your creatures for Final Strike. So highly recommend that you put at least 1 Primal Surge, because if you like playing your entire deck, put this card in. For lands, again, I am not so much high on lands. If you guys have money for fetch lands, you always put those in, and it will help out this deck. You got shock lands; those are great as well. But I do recommend that you put in a couple of Temple of Abundance for the Scry ability, because of the lack of non-creature spells in this deck. It is hard to sometimes filter through your deck other than your Genesis Waves and here and there. But I noticed that Temple of Abundance with their Scry actually helps out the deck very well, because it does, in a sense, control what you're going to draw next. So that is it. That's Oops All Creatures. I hope you guys enjoy this deck. It is fun. It really is fun. If you guys like playing with big creatures and like seeing your opponents try to figure out how they're going to deal with the Rurik Thars and so forth, I encourage you guys to try out this deck. $75, not that bad. If you guys have any suggestions for creatures to add onto this deck, or to remove any of the creatures that I have, please comment below. Be sure to like and subscribe if you like this video. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you guys next time.